The day began like thousands of others before it. I woke at 6 o'clock in the morning, as I had for the past 40 years. My body knows this rhythm so well that I don't even need an alarm clock anymore. My eyes simply open, and I know it's time to greet the world. I shuffled out of bed in my old cream-colored robe, the one with the small tear near the hem that I keep meaning to sew but never do, and made my way downstairs to the kitchen. There's a ritual to my mornings, you see, a sacred routine that has kept me anchored through all the ups and downs of my 67 years. I reach for the coffee maker, the same one I've had for 20 years. I fill it with water from the tap. I add the coffee grounds, strong, no sugar, just the way I've always liked it. And then I wait for that beautiful, aromatic moment when the coffee is ready. That smell. Oh, that smell has been with me for 4 decades. It's like a warm hug, a promise that the day will be good, that I will have strength. While the coffee brewed, I looked out the window of my kitchen at my little garden. I grow tomatoes there and basil, and I take pride in every plant. This house has been my entire world. I was born here 76 years ago. I inherited it from my mother, who inherited it from my grandmother before her. These yellow walls, they've seen everything. Every joy, every heartbreak, every small moment that makes up a life. I got married in this house. My son Benjamin was born in this house. I raised him alone after his father abandoned us when Benjamin was only 3 years old. I worked 2 jobs for 20 years, cleaning houses until my hands bled, skipping meals so my son could eat, all to keep this roof over our heads and to give Benjamin opportunities I never had. I was proud of him. Benjamin was smart, hardworking. He graduated from college. He got a good job. He married a good woman named Caroline, and they had Veronica, my beautiful granddaughter. For years, I thought I had done everything right, that my sacrifice had been worth it, that Benjamin understood what I had given up for him. I was wrong. But I didn't know that yet on that Thursday morning. I carried my coffee upstairs in my favorite white mug, the one with orange flowers that my mother gave me before she passed away. It's one of my most treasured possessions. I went to Veronica's room and knocked softly on her door. "Grandma?" Her voice was tired, small, almost childlike despite her 14 years. "I feel sick. Can I stay home today?" I pushed open her door and saw her lying in bed, her long brown hair tangled on the pillow, her eyes looking up at me with something I couldn't quite define. Not physical pain, exactly. Something else. Something in her gaze that suggested worry or fear or something her young voice didn't know how to express. I went over to her bed and touched her forehead with the back of my hand, a gesture I've performed 1,000 times as a mother and grandmother. It was barely warm, nothing serious, nothing that screamed emergency. But I've learned to listen to my intuition, to that small voice inside that sometimes speaks louder than logic. And something in Veronica's eyes stopped me. "It's okay, my love," I told her. "You can rest with me today. We'll go down together for breakfast. I'll make it special for you." Her relief was visible. "Thank you, Grandma," she whispered, and something in my chest tightened. That instinct, that mother's intuition, telling me that something wasn't quite right. I made Veronica her favorite breakfast: Earl Grey tea, toast with butter, and a little bit of strawberry jam that I had made last month when the strawberries were on sale at the farmer's market. Sometimes the simple things bring the most comfort. I set the table carefully, with cloth napkins and the good dishes. I wanted her to feel loved, cared for, safe. Veronica sat in her usual chair by the window, the one where she can see the garden with my tomato plants and basil. The morning light poured in like liquid gold, creating those beautiful geometric squares on the white tablecloth. We ate in silence, not an awkward silence, but the comfortable silence of two people who love each other deeply and don't need to fill every moment with words. That's the kind of peace that only comes from true love, from genuine connection. After breakfast, I asked her to help me wash the dishes. She agreed without complaint. As we worked side by side, me washing and her drying, I noticed her hands trembling slightly. "Are you sure you're okay?" I asked. She nodded quickly, too quickly. "Just tired, Grandma. The movie last night was long." I didn't quite believe her, but I also didn't push. Sometimes children need space to work through their feelings, and I've always believed in respecting that boundary. After we finished with the dishes, Veronica went into the living room to watch television. I stayed in the kitchen, straightening up as I always do, everything in its place. Order, calm. These are the things that have always soothed my soul. I wiped the table, I swept the floor, I put the mugs back on the shelf where they belong. Around 11 o'clock, I decided to go upstairs and change out of my old robe. I was wearing the same cream-colored one from this morning, the one with the tear. I needed to put on something more presentable, something that made me feel like myself. I changed into black pants and a gray blouse, comfortable clothes for a day at home. I looked in the mirror. I saw an older woman looking back at me. Wrinkles around my eyes from years of smiling, of laughing, of crying. Gray hair all over. Age spots on my hands that I've grown to accept as proof of a life well lived. But I also saw something else. Strength. I saw a woman who survived, who raised a son alone, who never gave up no matter how difficult things became. I said a small prayer that day, though I didn't know why. Something in my spirit was already preparing for what was coming. That was the moment, the precise moment I stepped into my bedroom to change my clothes, when everything began to unravel. While I was upstairs, looking at my aging reflection, my granddaughter, downstairs, was hearing something that would change both our lives forever. Veronica was sitting on the sofa watching a movie, trying to lose herself in the story, when she heard it. The sound. A sound that made her blood run cold. A key turning in the lock of the front door. Someone entering the house. Someone who shouldn't be there. Not at this time. Not today. Her heart began to race. Her father worked until 6 o'clock. He never came home at midday. Never. Veronica's instinct, that same instinct I had felt that morning, told her something was terribly wrong. She quickly turned off the television. She moved silently towards her bedroom door on the ground floor, right next to the living room. She stepped inside and left the door just barely ajar, just enough to see out, but not enough to be noticed. And then she watched. She watched her father, Benjamin, enter the house dressed in his gray suit. But he wasn't walking the way he normally did. He was moving differently. He was looking around as if he didn't want to be seen, as if he were doing something forbidden. Veronica's heart pounded so hard, she was sure he would hear it. Her whole body screamed that something terrible was happening. Benjamin went straight to the coat rack by the door. My green coat was hanging there. The old winter coat I've had for years. He reached into his own pocket and pulled out something small, a little white baggie, and with deliberate, calculated movements, he slipped it into the pocket of my coat. Veronica felt something cold run down her spine. She didn't understand what was happening, but she knew, with that certainty only a child's intuition has. When my son went into the hall, Veronica watched him from the other side of the poster board.
She was 12 years old and small for her age. Her body was full of tension. Her heart was beating so hard she could feel it in her throat. What Veronica saw in that dark hallway made her realize that this was not like anything she had seen in movies. She saw her father sneak toward the coat rack. He reached into the pocket of my green coat and he took out something small, a tiny plastic baggie. He opened it and poured out something white into the baggie. Then he closed it again, put it back into my pocket, and looked to the door to make sure no one was coming. Veronica knew every nerve in her body that this was bad, very bad. Then Benjamin took out his phone. He dialed a number. He waited. A woman answered. I would later learn her name was Monica. And then my son spoke in a low voice that his daughter had never heard before. Cold, calculating, empty of all love. It's done, he said. Tonight. You can call the police. That old woman won't understand a thing. The world stopped for Veronica in that moment. Police? Her grandmother? Veronica's hands began to shake. She covered her mouth to keep herself from gasping, from crying out. What had her father done? Why would the police be called? What had he put in her grandmother's coat? She heard more of the conversation, each word more horrifying than the last. The house will be free in 1 week, 2 maximum. No one will believe a 67-year-old woman with drugs in her pocket. Social services will take the kid and I'll have the house. $300,000, Monica, divided between us two. $150,000 for each of us. Enough to start over. Drugs. Her father had put drugs in her grandmother's coat. He was planning to have her arrested. He was planning to take the house. He was planning to destroy everything. And Veronica, my beloved Veronica, realized that if her father succeeded, she would be taken away. She would be separated from the only person who truly loved her, the only person who made her feel safe. Her father laughed, a laugh she had never heard before, full of cruelty and calculation. No, she doesn't suspect anything. She still won't sign the papers, but it doesn't matter anymore. When they arrest her for drug possession, she'll lose all her rights. A judge will give me the house automatically. It's perfect. Veronica heard everything. Her photographic memory captured every detail, every word, every inflection of his voice. He spoke about having already been offered $300,000 for the property by a buyer who came to the door last month, an offer I had refused. My memories are here, I had told that man. My life is here. I don't care how much money you offer me. But my son cared. He cared very much. When Benjamin finally hung up the phone and left the house, Veronica sat in her room for a long time, shaking, crying silently. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to process what she had just witnessed. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She had to protect me. She had to protect her grandmother. She came out of her room with trembling legs and walked straight to the coat rack. Her hand shook as she reached into the pocket of my green coat. She pulled out the small plastic baggie. Inside was white powder. She didn't know much about drugs, but she had heard stories at school. This was serious. This was real. She hid the baggie in her dresser, deep underneath her winter clothes where no one would look for it. Then she sat on her bed with her phone and began to take notes, detailed, precise notes. The time her father entered, what he said, the name, Monica, the plan, the money, everything. She knew that when the time came, she would need to remember every detail perfectly. One mistake, and everything would fall apart. When I came down the stairs an hour later, Veronica was back on the sofa with the television on, but I could see she had been crying. Red eyes, restless hands. When I asked if she was okay, she said it was just the movie. She lied to me, but it was a lie born from fear, from trying to protect me by not burdening me with the truth too soon. For lunch, I made chicken noodle soup, Veronica's favorite. I chopped the vegetables carefully, carrots, celery, onion. The knife against the wooden cutting board made that familiar rhythmic sound that had always calmed me. But that day, something felt different in the air. Something I couldn't name but couldn't ignore. I looked toward the living room. Veronica was sitting very still, staring intensely at the television, but not really watching it. My mother's intuition was screaming at me that something was wrong, but I didn't know what. If only I had pressed her, if only I had trusted that instinct more. But I couldn't have known. How could I have known that my own son was betraying us? Let me tell you about Benjamin, about how we got to this terrible place. Let me tell you about the boy I raised and the man he became. 2 years ago, my daughter-in-law Caroline died in a traffic accident. One moment, she was on her way home from work. The next, she was gone. Just like that. A life ended, a family shattered. Benjamin was devastated, and so was I. We all were. Benjamin asked me to take care of Veronica while he worked. Of course, I said without hesitation. This house has plenty of room, and Veronica needs love. She needs stability. She needs the things I've always known how to give. I took her in willingly, lovingly, without any sense that this decision would eventually become the battlefield where everything would fall apart. But something changed in Benjamin after his wife's death. He started visiting less. He talked less. He looked at me differently, not with the love a son should feel for his mother, but with something colder, something calculating. About 3 months ago, Benjamin came to the house with papers in his hands. "Mom, I need you to sign this. It's for your protection, so that if anything happens to you, the house will be in good hands." I read the papers. The print was small, and my eyes aren't as strong as they used to be. But as I read, something inside me stopped me. A small voice that said, "Wait, don't sign yet." I have always trusted my instincts, and that day, my instincts screamed at me to be careful. I didn't sign. Benjamin came back the next week and the week after that, always with the same papers, always with the same insistence. "Mom, do it for Veronica," he would say. But I still didn't sign. That little voice inside me wouldn't let me. Then about a month ago, a man came to my door. He was well-dressed, professional, and he offered me $300,000 for their property. The neighborhood had become trendy, he explained. Fancy coffee shops and stores had opened on every corner. The house was worth more than ever. "No," I told him firmly. "This house is not for sale. It never will be. My memories are here. My life is here. I don't care how much money you offer me." But my son cared. He cared very much. When Benjamin finally hung up the phone and left the house, Veronica sat in her room for a long time, shaking, crying silently. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to process what she had just witnessed. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She had to protect me. She had to protect her grandmother. She came out of her room with trembling legs and walked straight to the coat rack. Her hand shook as she reached into the pocket of my green coat. She pulled out the small plastic baggie. Inside was white powder. She didn't know much about drugs, but she had heard stories at school. This was serious. This was real. she hid the baggie in her dresser, deep underneath her winter clothes where no one would look for it. Then she sat on her bed with her phone and began to take notes. Detailed, precise notes. The time her father entered, what he said, the name, Monica, the plan, the money, everything. She knew that when the time came, she would need to remember every detail perfectly. One mistake, and everything would fall apart. When I came down the stairs an hour later, Veronica was back on the sofa with the television on, but I could see she had been crying. Red eyes, restless hands. When I asked if she was okay, she said it was just the movie. She lied to me.
Me all along. After lunch that day, I told Veronica she could rest in her room. She went upstairs without argument, but I could see the weight she was carrying. I didn't understand it then. I understand it now. The afternoon passed slowly. Time seemed to move differently that day, as if even the universe knew something terrible was coming. I turned on the television but didn't watch it. I sat on my sofa with my hands folded in my lap, my mind wandering to dark places, to worries I couldn't name. At around 3 o'clock, I made tea. I sat with the cup cooling in my hands, untouched. By 6 o'clock, I called Veronica down. I made turkey and Swiss sandwiches. Nothing elaborate, nothing special. We ate in front of the television, each of us lost in our own thoughts, each of us carrying secrets we weren't sharing. She was holding the weight of what she knew. I was holding the weight of what I didn't know. At 7 o'clock, Veronica said she had homework. She went upstairs again. I was left alone in the living room. Outside, it began to rain. Soft drops against the windows. A sound that has always seemed calming to me. But not that night. That night, the sound of the rain felt like a warning, like an alert, as if the sky itself knew something terrible was about to happen. I turned up the television to fill the silence. I watched the images but didn't process them. I was waiting for something, though I didn't know what. Waiting for a knock on the door, waiting for Veronica to come back down, waiting for the world to make sense again. Upstairs, Veronica wasn't doing homework. She was getting ready. She checked her phone. The battery was at 100%. She tested the voice recorder. It worked perfectly. She tested the camera. It also worked. She put the phone on silent mode. She couldn't risk it ringing at the wrong moment. Then she dressed, completely in black. Black pants, black sweatshirt. If she had to hide in the shadows, if she had to confront her father, she needed to be invisible. It was 8 p.m., just one more hour. 1 hour before hell began. My granddaughter sat on her bed in those dark clothes, shaking, terrified, but determined. She was 14 years old. She was afraid, but her love for me was stronger than her fear. And so, she waited. At 8:30 p.m., the doorbell rang. I stood up from the sofa, surprised. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the window before opening the door, and there was Benjamin, standing in the rain, without an umbrella, soaked to the bone. "Benjamin," I said as I opened the door, "what are you doing here?" "Hello, Mom. I need to talk to you." He walked in without waiting for an invitation. Water dripped from his gray suit onto my entryway floor. He was acting differently than he had in weeks. He was smiling, but it was a strange smile, not warm, not genuine, but calculated. "You were upset with me because of the papers. Let's forget that. I came to apologize. You were right, Mom.
I shouldn't have pressured you. I was wrong. Something in his voice didn't sound sincere. But he was my son. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to think that he had come in peace, that we could repair whatever was broken between us. Ben, sit down, I said. I'll make you coffee. You're soaked. He declined the coffee, but he sat in the armchair across from the sofa. We talked. He asked about Veronica. He asked if he could see her later. I told him to let her concentrate on her homework. And then, after a few minutes of small talk, he said something that made my heart stop. Mom, I need to ask you for something. Anything, son. What do you need? I need money. $50,000. $50,000. It was almost everything I had saved. The money I kept for emergencies, for my old age, to leave something for Veronica when I eventually passed away. My entire life savings, set aside for security. Benjamin, I don't have that much money available, I said carefully. Yes, you do. I know. It's in your savings account. You can take it out tomorrow. I'm desperate, Mom. I have debts, big debts. If I don't pay them soon, they're going to hurt me. Maybe they'll hurt Veronica too. That's when my blood turned cold. Is Veronica in danger? She could be, if I don't pay. But if you give me the money, everything will be resolved. Everything will go back to normal. I looked him directly in the eyes, searching for the truth, searching for my son. But what I saw terrified me. There was something cold in his gaze, something calculating, something I didn't recognize. It was as if I was looking at a stranger wearing my son's face. I can't give you that money, Benjamin. Not like this. What? He stood up, his voice rising. Are you telling me no? I'm saying I need more information. Who are these people? Why do you owe them money? That doesn't matter, he shouted. Just give me the money. No. Because you are my son, I need to understand. He walked to the window and stood there with his back to me, looking out at the rain. His hands were clenched into fists in his pockets. I didn't know it then, but upstairs, Veronica was listening. She was recording everything with her phone. Every word, every threat, every lie. You know what, Mom? Benjamin finally said, turning around to face me. Forget it. I don't want your money. I don't want anything from you. He walked toward the door. I followed him, my heart breaking. Benjamin, wait. Let's talk. There's something more going on here, and I need you to tell me what it is. He opened the door. The rain poured in heavily. You're going to regret this, Mom. I promise you. He left. The door closed with a bang that echoed throughout the house. I stood in the entryway shaking, not from the cold, but from fear. My son's words sounded like a threat. What did he mean? What was he going to do? Veronica came out of the hallway where she had been standing, listening to everything. She was pale. Her eyes were red from crying. Grandma, are you okay? She asked, but she didn't wait for an answer. Grandma, I have to tell you something. I have to tell you right now. I can't keep it secret anymore. It's too big. It's too horrible. I looked at her, and I knew. Somehow I knew that my granddaughter was about to tell me something that would change everything. "What is it, my love?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Dad came today when you were upstairs, when you were changing your clothes. I saw him. I watched him. He put something in your coat, in the pocket. Something bad, Grandma. And he spoke on the phone. He said they're going to call the police tonight. He said they're going to blame you. He said they're going to take your house." I couldn't breathe. The room started spinning. "What?" I managed to ask. "Veronica, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure about what you heard?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Grandma. I should have told you sooner, but I was afraid. Afraid you wouldn't believe me. Afraid of what he would do." I pulled her into my arms and held her while she cried against my chest. My granddaughter had just revealed to me that my own son had betrayed me, that he had planned to have me arrested for something I didn't do, that he was willing to destroy his own mother for money. Where is it? Where is what he put in my coat? I have it. I hid it in my room. I took it this morning when I saw him put it there. I knew I couldn't just let him leave it there.
Moments later, with a small white baggie in her trembling hand, she placed it on the coffee table between us. I looked at it without touching it. It was small, almost insignificant, but I knew what it represented. It represented betrayal. It represented greed. It represented my son's willingness to destroy me. "What are we going to do, Grandma?" Veronica asked, her voice small and frightened. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself, trying to think clearly despite the chaos in my mind. "We have to act fast, my love. Your father said someone would call the police tonight at 9 o'clock. We have to be prepared." I looked at the clock. It was 8:45 p.m. We had 15 minutes. 15 minutes to decide what to do. 15 minutes to save our lives. I thought carefully. The police would come and search the house. If they found the drugs, they would arrest me. It wouldn't matter what I said. No one would believe me. An old woman with drugs in our house? I would look guilty. Benjamin would show up later, acting surprised, the concerned son. They would believe him. They would take Veronica away. They would give him the house. But if the drugs weren't here when the police arrived, his plan would fail. Without drugs, there would be no crime. Without crime, there would be no arrest. Without arrest, there would be no way for him to take my house. "We have to get rid of this," I said, pointing to the baggie. "We have to get them out of the house completely." "How?" Veronica asked. "Can we flush them down the toilet?" "No. They might check the drains. Everything. We have to get them completely out of the house." Veronica thought for a moment. "We can bury them in the garden. It's raining. No one will see us out there." She was right. It was risky, but we had no choice. "Okay," I said, "let's do it. Let's go now." I grabbed the baggie with the kitchen towel. I didn't want to leave my fingerprints on it. We went out to the backyard. The rain was falling heavily. We were soaked in seconds. Our clothes clung to us. Our hair dripped water into our eyes. I dug a small hole near my tomato plants. The same plants I had been tending all summer. The same plants that represented life and growth and my connection to this house. I dug deep, my old hands working quickly despite their age.
I placed the baggie into the hole. I covered it with dirt. Veronica helped me tamp it down. We worked in silence. Two people united in purpose, working together to protect what was ours. When we finished, our hands were covered in mud. Our clothes were completely soaked. But the drugs were no longer in the house. They were no longer a threat. We came inside and quickly changed into dry clothes. We wiped away the mud. It was 8:55 p.m. 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, someone would call the police saying I had drugs here. And the police would come, and they wouldn't find anything. We sat in the living room waiting. Veronica next to me with my hands clasped in my lap, so tightly they hurt. The clock struck 9. Somewhere in the city, a woman named Monica was dialing the police number. She was saying that there were drugs at this address, that an old woman was keeping them, that it was urgent. I could imagine her voice, cold, calculated, lying easily, and the police officers on the other end taking notes, preparing to come, preparing to investigate. How long do you think they'll take? 20 minutes, maybe 30? She nodded. Grandma, I'm scared. Me too, I admitted. But we're going to be okay. We have to be strong. We have to trust that the truth will come out. Veronica looked at me with those brown eyes so much like mine. What if they don't believe us? What if they think we're lying? Then we'll keep fighting, I said, with a certainty I didn't entirely feel. I won't let them take what is mine. I won't let them take you away from me. Never. The minutes passed slowly. Each second felt like an hour. The rain continued outside. I thought about Benjamin, about the baby I had held in my arms 35 years ago, about the boy who used to hug me when he had nightmares, about the young man who graduated from college thanks to my sacrifice. Where had that child been lost? At what moment did love turn into greed? Maybe it was always there, hiding beneath the surface. Maybe I had simply refused to see it. I remembered small moments over the years. When he was 10 years old, I found money missing from my wallet. I asked him about it. He lied to me. He said he hadn't taken it, but I found the bills hidden in his room. When he was 17, he wrecked my car. He lied then too. He said someone else had hid it while it was parked. But my neighbor told me the truth. Benjamin had been racing with his friends. There had always been lies. There had always been selfishness. But I justified it. He's young. He'll mature. He'll change. I was wrong. He never changed. He only got better at hiding who he really was. At 9:25 p.m., we heard the sirens. Distant at first, then closer and closer until they stopped in front of my house. Red and blue lights illuminated my living room walls. Veronica grabbed my arm. "They're here," she whispered. "Yes, they're here. We're going to be okay." The doorbell rang loudly, insistently. I took a deep breath and opened the door. 2 police officers stood in the rain. An older man in uniform and a younger woman next to him. "Good evening, ma'am. I'm Officer David Miller. We received a call about suspicious activity at this address. Can we come inside?" "Of course, officer. Come in. I have nothing to hide." The officers came in, shaking off the water. They looked around the house, which was tidy and clean as always. They began their search methodically. Living room, kitchen, bathrooms, bedrooms. They lifted sofa cushions, they opened cabinets. They checked everywhere. Half an hour later, they came down the stairs, looking confused. We didn't find anything, ma'am. It appears this may have been a false call. Either someone got the wrong address or it was meant as a prank. Officer, I may ask you something. Who made the call? I can't give you that information. It was anonymous. But someone said I had drugs here. Someone is lying. Someone wants to harm me. Doesn't that seem strange to you? He sighed. Yes, it is strange. I'm going to report this. We will investigate who made the call. If someone is trying to frame you, we will take action. They left. I closed the door and leaned against it. My legs were shaking. Veronica ran to me and hugged me. We did it, Grandma. They didn't find anything. Yes, my love, we did it. But this isn't over. When your father finds out, he'll come back. He'll be furious. We have to be prepared. And I was right. Within an hour, Benjamin came back. He burst through the door. How did he get in? I realized later that he had never returned his house key. He looked around frantically for the police officers, but they were gone. What happened? Where are they? They left, I said, my voice steady despite my fear. They didn't find anything because there is nothing. He approached me, his face red, his fist clenched. That's impossible. I put them there myself. They're in your coat, in the pocket of the green coat. The moment he said those words, I saw the realization flash across his face. He had confessed. He had just admitted to his crime. I mean, I thought someone told me. He tried to backtrack, but it was too late. You said it clearly, Benjamin. You put them there. You brought drugs into my house. You tried to call the police.
Did all of this to take my house. Your own mother. He took a step back, and I could see the calculation in his eyes. He was already thinking of his next move. Veronica heard you this morning, I continued. She saw you come in. She saw you put the baggie in my coat. She heard you talk on the phone with Monica. Benjamin looked at Veronica. She looked back at him without fear, with disappointment, with sadness, but without fear. You, he said to her, his voice dripping with venom. You ruined everything. You're just a nosy kid. I don't regret anything, Veronica said in a voice far stronger than her 14 years. I was protecting Grandma, something you should have done. Benjamin laughed, a bitter, cruel laugh. They've seen two people who love each other rebuild what was nearly destroyed. So when you're facing a difficult decision, when you're wondering if you should trust someone despite your instincts, when you're afraid of the consequences of speaking the truth, remember Veronica. Remember me. Remember that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to fight, to protect, to tell the truth no matter how much it costs. Remember that you are stronger than you think, that you have a voice, that your instincts matter, that you are worthy of protection and love and safety. And remember that grace and forgiveness are beautiful things, but they come in their own time. They can't be rushed. They can't be forced. They come when your heart is ready, if your heart is ever ready. This is my story. This is our story. This is the story of how a grandmother and granddaughter learned that love, real love, sometimes means standing strong against the people who raised us when they choose darkness over light. Thank you for listening.